Hello and welcome to our 39th Berlin Real Estate Talk. Today we are covering the year 2022 and what we're going to see in the year 2023, which is important for you as a buyer and seller. Our expert today is my business partner and director, Mr. Andreas Müller. Hi, Andreas.
Yeah, hi, Achim.
It's the 39 Berlin Real Estate Talk. Today our topic is what has happened in the year 2022 and what's the outlook for 2023. My business partner and colleague Andreas Müller, he's the local expert and he's doing all the transaction management and he's making sure the surveys are right. And please feel free to ask your questions here in the live chat and we're going to respond to that immediately. Okay.
And Achim is our local hero for the English speaker. Achim, what is your result of this year 22?
So the year isn't yet over, so we still have 2 weeks to go. I know it's just a week before Christmas, but we had a very, call that volatile year. So everything started very well. It was a fantastic first quarter. Of course, we had that terrible war in Ukraine when Russia attacked Ukraine. So that was completely shocking for everyone, I think.
Yeah.
And after that, we had a lot of cascading events. I think the main problem for us in the market was is still the high inflation. I think that's struggling a lot of people. The high energy costs and then the rising interest rates. And the last bit has killed a lot of buyers because the rising interest rates means that a lot of people cannot afford their properties anymore, which they could have last year. And the result was that property prices went down, but we have to be realistic here. Property prices are not falling like in maybe other countries because we have such a high demand for property in Berlin and also in other major cities that we have maybe went down 4%, 6% for bad properties, badly situated properties, maybe 10%, but that's pretty much it. And a lot of sellers have basically left the market because they don't want to sell for a discount. So that's something that we have seen. We also have seen that a lot of developers aren't listing their apartments anymore. They're not selling their apartments because they cannot go down with the prices because they have high construction costs. So in Germany, we have a high quality high standard of quality builds. So that means that the property prices are not going down for new builds. I think they will stay stable. But we have seen less transactions than last year in general because of that volatile environment. People are staying home a lot. They're observing the market. They're still doing inquiries, but they're not doing transactions so much like than last year. So this year, so far, we have sold 116 apartments or units compared to last year where we have sold 179. So we can see that the amount of transactions is going down. I'm still hoping for end of this year that we're going to hit the 120 units. That would be nice. Overall, we have to say we still had a very good year. I mean, last year was exceptionally great with terms of business we did. But for you as a buyer or seller, next year I think will be not as shocking as this year because we had this year a lot of very bad events. And I think the market will stay stable, especially for next year because we now have pretty much stable interest rates, anything between 3 to 5%. Market prices went down already, and I think they will continue to go down a little bit so that you can afford apartments. Yeah, I think that's what's happening next year. So I think for all the buyers out there, next year will be very, very good for you guys. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we have a lot of questions from our visitors, and we start with the first. The first one, is it a good idea to invest in property in year 23 amid inflation?
Yes, I think especially with inflation, depends of course from which currency you're coming from. If you are earning euros or dollars or yen or shekel or whatever, please check what's the inflation rate in your home country. But of course, property is historically speaking, especially when you focus on properties in prime locations or in areas such as Berlin, where you have a lot of potential in the next 10 years, then of course property is a great investment. Please make sure you have a neutral cash flow when you buy and you get a decent mortgage. I think that's important. Yeah.
Okay. The next one is, can we anticipate even higher interest rates in the next 2 or 3 years?
The good question. We did a big webinar, I think it was 2 weeks ago, with my colleague Martin Bonnet. He's a very reputable finance broker here in Germany. I think you can contact him if you have further questions on him. But as a quick result, he thinks that the market will calm down interest rates. I think we already have seen a drop in interest rate from 4.8 to 3.8 within 4 weeks. A lot of local brokers have anticipated interest rates going up from 3.5 to 5% by December or Christmas. 2 weeks we have Christmas. So far, I can't see any 5% interest rates being on the market. So I think the market next year will, if nothing bad happens, we'll have realistic interest rates between 3 to 5%. And my advice is for buyers, if you get an interest rate, anything between 3 to 4, you should definitely take it. And if you're an international buyer, usually pay already 3.5 to 4% interest. So I think definitely go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. The next one, take a question by a buyer. I've been told in Q2 and 23 will be the perfect moment to buy a property. Oh, nice.
So that's fantastic.
Nice tip.
That's fantastic. If you know that, it would be great.
Yes, yes. Okay.
There are a lot of wise people who said they always missed the right time to sell or to buy, but they're always very rich because they know that they've always sold too fast or bought too quickly. So you will never have the perfect point. No. I think now is actually the perfect point because we have less transactions in general. My colleague Andreas in the German section just earlier just pointed out the amount of transaction volume we have in general in the industry. This is falling significantly this year after summer. And so I think if there are less transactions and if there is a lot of volatility out there, and we have that war going on, people are nervous, then it's a perfect time for you as a buyer to buy. As the seller, it's different, of course. Yeah. As a seller, you can hope for better times. Absolutely. You can say, okay, I'm leaving the market because I don't want to sell for that price and I don't get better offers. But then you have to be realistic that you might need to keep that apartment or house for a longer period of time. We don't know when the times will change. It can be next year, can be quarter 2, can be quarter 3, can be in 5 years. We don't know. Yeah. But generally speaking, of course, the rental market is very, very strong in Germany. Yeah. So if you want to keep it, you of course can get fantastic rents at the moment, but please be aware, it's a regulated rental market, so you cannot ask any market rent for an existing apartment, which is not a new build. Yeah, because this is important to be aware of. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The next one. Wouldn't the stop of newly built real estate in Germany lead to further shortage of housing supply in Germany and therefore lead to a sort of price increase of real estate and as a result compensate the apparently an unavoidable fall prices in 2023 or 24?
Yeah, the answer is yes. Yeah, very simple.
Yeah.
So you're completely right. So at the moment we have falling property prices, but please be aware of this is just a temporary situation because people are shocked of the quick interest rate jump from 0.7 for local taxpayers to 4 or even to 4.5%. So that has, of course, shocked a lot of people, but this is just for the moment. I think we had a similar situation when we had the so-called rental cap a few years ago, which got overturned by the federal court in Germany. So a lot of people haven't bought apartments there as well, and they all regretted after that they haven't purchased and just bought. So I think you should focus less on the market. You should focus on yourself, on your personal criteria. So the main question is, why do you want to buy? Why do you want to sell? Where do you want to buy? What's the reason you want to buy there? What kind of investment strategy do you have? How much cash do you have available? What are the alternatives? I think this is the main question you should cover first. And once that's clear, we always go into the right property selection for you, make sure you get the best what's on there on the market. I think that's important for us, and for you to make a good deal. But that you cannot, you already asked the right question. You cannot influence the market as a single person. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next one. Do we have statistics about the amount of mortgage holders in Germany whose end of fixed interest rate period will take place in 23 or 24 and would mean for them a dramatic increase of interest?
Yes, so it's a fantastic question. So first of all, yes, there are statistics. And if you follow us on our YouTube channel or you follow us on our website, on our blogs, or on Instagram, then of course we will cover this in the near future. We will show you what's happening. But to answer your question, in 10 years ago, property prices in these areas we're talking about were minimum 50% less than what we're having today. Sometimes, if it's a tenanted apartment, even more than 50% less. If someone has purchased an apartment 10 years ago for, I don't know, 100,000 euros, and now the apartment is worth 200,000 euros, even if he has to remortgage this, in Germany we don't have 100% mortgages as such. Very rarely we had these for a short period of time. So I think usually the German property buyer comes up with 20% deposit. So if you have a 20% deposit and have borrowed 80,000 euros 10 years ago, you have repaid usually 2%. So maybe this year, when you have to continue the contract, you have maybe 50,000 euros left on your mortgage, and the property is worth 200,000. So you just have to remortgage 50,000 euros. Even with higher interest rates, let's say we have 5% interest rates, this is 2,500 euros per year, and the old mortgage usually should have stayed the same or less. So people who have bought, in Germany it's very difficult to get a mortgage, it's very strict. Even in the good times it was difficult to get a mortgage. It wasn't like you just go to the bank and you just got a mortgage, so it was always tricky. So you should be safe for people who have bought 10 years ago. People who have bought 2-3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, that's a bit different, but they usually run with a 10-year contract. So they might run into problem or into trouble if they have purchased 2-3 years ago, and we will see continued price falls, meaning that in 1 to 3 years ago, let's say 2028, 2029, they have to remortgage. Then that might be a problem for them if they don't pay off the mortgages. Yeah, but anyone who has bought last year, 2 years ago, they always got interest rates between 0.7 and 2%. So they should be able to repay the mortgage much faster. And so I don't think we're going to have a crash there. Not at all. Yeah. So it's a very, how do you put it, a very strict regulated mortgage market. So that should be not a dramatic problem. Yeah. Not like in other countries. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I see we have a new question from our resident. I'm thinking to buy a flat in Berlin. Should I start searching for a flat and analyzing the market, etc.? Is this something I should pay much attention to? Yeah.
So first of all, I think you should call us. Call my colleague Nick, call my colleague Andreas, or call myself. We have on our website you can book an appointment. It's free. We show you the main portals where you can search for. You can register with us as a search client, and you also can register at the portals as a buyer. I think important for you is to make sure what budget you're having. Finance is key. How much cash do you have available? What kind of mortgage you need? I think that should be the first topic. And if you want to buy a flat in Berlin, where should I start searching? If you ask me more about the location, that's different. Like you want to buy Mitte, Kreuzberg, Spandau, Charlottenburg. That's something where we of course can help you as well. And I think you should definitely pay attention to the local agents who speak maybe English. There are a couple of us around and who can help you. And I think the personal consultation is very, very important. That you as a buyer also feel safe and protected by the client. I mean, by the agent, and not just the number to them. So that's important. Just make sure you get a strong relationship to your agent who represents you as a client. Yeah. I hope I could answer that question.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all for today.
Oh, we have now, how does the mortgage interest rates?
Yeah, but I think the answer of this to this question, how does the mortgage interest rate looks like in 23? Do we see a downward trend already?
Yeah, I think that's the interesting one. I don't think we're going to have a drop in mortgage or interest rates next year significantly. I mean, historically speaking, we still have low mortgage interest rates. So 3%, 4% is low. I mean, we both know. Yeah, you are 29, I'm 27. So we never have seen high mortgage rates. Of course, we have seen 8, 9, 10% mortgage rates. And the market has worked. So I think it always is important on the purchase power of people. How much do people earn? How much can they afford? And which city they're buying? What kind of apartment? Is it a buy-to-let? Is it somewhere you want to live in? What's the rental market like? And the rental market in Berlin is terrible. There's simply no apartments you can rent at the moment. beside the new builds, because everyone who's living in an apartment is not leaving it because they don't find a different apartment. So I think that's important. So interest rates for you, I think our experts are telling us anything between 3 to 5% next year. I don't think that interest rate will go down to 1% or 0.8. I don't think that's realistic. And none of us believes that inflation will go down to 1% or 2% anytime soon. But again, this is a guess. We have our crystal ball here usually. Andreas, he put it away this morning. So we don't know. But realistic, it's not that we're having a significant drop. Yeah. Okay, if there are no further questions, Nick, you have any further questions? Nothing? No. Yourself having any questions?
Just give me a second, there's another one.
Ah, something's coming in. Okay, we want to buy an apartment that is rented for 5 years to a working tenant. We want to claim for self-use. Can the tenant refuse to leave based on a fake cause, like faking a depression or sickness? Yes, of course he can do that. We see that every day. Yeah. We see everyday depressions and sicknesses out there, but not only from tenants, also from buyers. You know, they are also getting depressed. Of course, they can do that. The big question for you is, what's the legal situation of yourself? What's the legal situation of the tenant? Usually, what it comes up to is that you sign a termination contract with the tenant. You make sure that the tenant signs that contract. And please make sure you work with a lawyer in this case. We're happy to guide you towards the right lawyers. And once we have that contract signed with the tenant, even though the contract terminates in 5 years, you can additionally sign a termination agreement with the tenant that brings you on the safe side. So even though in 5 years' time, even if the tenant feels sick or is not in the mood or whatever happens, he has to leave the apartment. But that's something a good lawyer can do for you. And before you buy that apartment, please make sure you get that contract in place. That's very important. So only if the contract says that the tenant has to leave in 5 years, it doesn't mean he really is leaving. So your question is right, there is a risk. And this risk you can negotiate down in the price. So usually people who take risks want to have a better deal. And that's something you can negotiate with the seller. And or the seller can secure you if he gives you a written confirmation by the tenant that he's going to leave in 5 years' time. We call that in German Mietaufhebungsvereinbarung. Very long German word. And the lawyer can help you with this. And Andreas and me are happy to help you to explain this in more detail. And if you send us a listing you have found there, we're also happy to check the value for you and make sure that you're paying the right price for it. Yeah. Good. Andreas, who's winning the match tonight?
Yep.
Who's winning it? Argentina, Mexico?
Mexico?
Croatia.
No,
there you go. You're listening. There you go.
I hope for Croatia.
Go for Croatia. Nick?
I'm for Croatia as well.
Yeah, there you go. Why don't none of us likes Argentina, you know?
Oh, no, but Croatia is it's nearby.
Okay. Great. Thank you guys for watching tonight. And if any questions, please feel free to contact us. Website, you have a lot of opportunities to contact us. If you have any ideas you want that we do another Berlin real estate talk on, please let us know. We're happy to invite experts, local heroes, professionals who are doing this on a daily basis. Thank you for watching tonight.
Thank you. Merry Christmas for all.